怎么的？来看这个。
Like a bleep?
Yeah.
No, I don't know that I'll remember all the questions in the moment.
Okay.
It's like, that was great and honest and vulnerable. Can you do that exactly that one time?
And what you think your life is going to look like right now does not even compare to what it's really going to look like.
I called my mom. No, nothing's wrong. I just wanna talk.
It's been honestly just so humbling of like, I did not think I would get like 50 people to do it, and now I think I'm at 75. The first story was my friend Brittany, and she kind of set the tone, and that was like, it's not that I didn't expect for people to like not take it seriously, but like go into depth with like stories, but it's been really cool to like see these people come out of their shells and be like, no, I want to share this because this is going to impact somebody. Like, the vulnerability has been awesome. 5, 6, 7, 8 stories in now, and I wish it was done. Because I want to see everything put together, and I want to see how it impacts people, and just like, I know it's gonna be incredible because I'm being impacted, and I know Angie can kind of speak for that too, but like, it's just, I don't really have words for it because it's better than I would have ever dreamed it would have been, and we're 8 stories in, so I still have 65 or however many stories to go through, which it may just end up being a movie. I'm just super humbled and thankful and honored that people are really taking it seriously and know that like their voice is going to be heard through these photos.
I am taking these photos because I am vulnerable. I am whole. I am a mess that is constantly being wiped clean over and over and over again. And I'm totally okay with that. I'm taking these pictures because this is a new beginning for me. I'm choosing to be pure.
I was adopted when I was 2, and I honestly shouldn't be here today. My birth mother was Chechen, so she was from Chechnya, and my birth father was Russian. And so at the time, the Chechens and the Russians were in war. They weren't supposed to have a kid, or they weren't supposed to talk to each other, and they ended up having me. The Russian government didn't want me. They were like, well, she's Chechen, we don't want her in our country. But then, honestly, I would say by the grace of God, I was put in an orphanage that doubled as a daycare for single moms or low-income families. And my adoptive parents, they adopted me. They met me 2 days after my 2nd birthday. But I would not have the opportunities that I have today. I wouldn't be where I am today if they hadn't adopted me. And they were gonna give up. My parents were gonna give up on adoption. Their previous ones had closed down. And so my mom had called her mom, and she's like, I give up, I can't do this. It's been 3 years. And then the next day they got a phone call and told them to come by the adoption agency, and there's some pictures of 2 little girls, and my parents saw my picture and they're like, that's the one. So yeah, like I shouldn't even be here, I guess, at this point today, but here I am. You know, and so when I sit down and I think about it and I talk about it, I'm like, oh wow, like God really did something. And like I was telling Eva, I was like, I look just like my parents. Like my mom's Irish, so she's very fair skinned. My dad is Sicilian, so he's super dark. Like he gets super tan in the summers. He's just tan all year round. I'm jealous. But I am like the perfect mix of them. Trust God that he's gonna make everything happen the way it's supposed to happen. And that no matter what you do, like, he's still gonna love you.
Your life has a specific purpose in the world that no one else can fill. So if you don't do what you're supposed to do on this planet, someone is going to miss out on the benefit of what your life could have given them.
Something else that has really made me who I am today was 2016 in July when I had a brown recluse extracted out of my ear. Because my life fear has been having a spider in my ear. Like that, I don't like it. Like it's so bad. He goes back in and pulls it out and he finds this little male brown recluse in a ball, and he puts it in like a little urine cup and fills it up with a little liquid and gives it to me. He's like, you want to keep it? I'm like, yes, I need this. But that also affected me because that was my biggest fear. I have since done so many more things, more carelessly, in a good way though, more lively. I felt so happy about it. I'm down to go skydiving. I love roller coasters. I'm down to really do anything that someone is up for. And I think that's also going to be a really good thing to kind of keep in mind throughout my life. Because I've conquered my biggest fear unintentionally, but sometimes that has the best outcome too. So
men are not princes. They're not supposed to be what you see in movies and TV. They're real. And, I grew up loving all kinds of romance, movies, TV, everything. And I've learned in my old age that you can't expect that. Because it's unattainable and it's not fair to them. And every woman needs to hear that too. So not even just a 10-year-old, all you women out there, men too, we ain't princesses, okay?
If we don't talk now, we won't talk. I'm trying to figure out what I need to talk about. Okay, here we are. We're 20 people. Day 87. I'm just playing. What day is it? I don't know. When did we start this? January 2nd? That's fine. I know, almost halfway. And I know that I have definitely started feeling the pressure and the sacrifice for making a documentary.
Do I have any idea?
What are you thinking right now?
So what are you, behind the scenes interviews is actually what it's called.
I just love New York and caffeine-free black tea. When I was 6 months old, I was in a car accident and I fractured my skull and had some internal bleeding around my brain. And the doctors told my parents that I wasn't gonna live through the night. And obviously they were wrong. I'm here today. First of all, praise God for that, because I wouldn't be here today without him saving my life through the doctor's hands and his own miraculous stuff. But living, 98% of my life as though it were a gift, it can tend to put a lot of pressure on what you do with your life. There's a lot of people that don't get a second chance. And so living life as though I don't know, just feel like I've got to do something big. I've got to do something worth paying attention to, worth the extra reboot on life. So it took me probably 22 years to figure out that the things that I feel like I'm supposed to do in life, my calling, my purpose, however you want to say it, was like honestly something that I had to muscle up and do and just be awesome and put that pressure on myself. And even so, like as a musician, music is my passion, or is one of them. Feeling like I've got to sell out stadiums, playing keys or violin or whatever. And everything shifted from it being all about me, making it happen on my own, fighting for it, being the only one that's dedicated to doing it, even in the face of like family, friends being like, I don't know if this is the most wise thing. Being a creative is not easy and it's not traditional. But everything shifted for me when I realized that I believe that God puts passion and calling into everybody that walks the earth, whether they acknowledge who it comes from or not. And being able to realize that if he put it in me, then he's gonna fight for it more than I'm fighting for it. And so I get to just rest in that and be diligent and be faithful with the things that he's given me. But honestly, it's not up to me whether it happens or not, when it happens. And it's given me, living life without that pressure has been honestly, it's been rarefied air to just relax and have fun with the things that I enjoy having fun with. And music continues to just be something that I enjoy doing instead of, white knuckling it through. So that's what I would want to tell the world. The calling that you've got inside of you, the purpose that you've got, you don't need to make it happen on your own. It's something that I believe that God fights for us even more so than we do. So.
Well, it started with a picture I saw on the wall at my church. It was a boy skipping stones across the creek. That reminded me of my childhood and growing up. And I was always happy when I visited my aunt and uncle, so I just loved the idea of that. But then I wanted to kind of dive in deeper to more of the meaning behind when the stone hits the water and what happens to it. It's called calm and then skip, which is in caps. Still water is uninterrupted, busy moving under the surface, calm upon first glance. Skip, skip, skip. Interruption on the surface, disturbed below. It sinks. Down, slowly releasing bubbles up, disturbed. And it sounds just like you're just skipping rocks, but it's also kind of like when someone kind of enters your life and makes a huge enough impact on your life that it disturbs everything, but in a good way, not in a bad way. My best friend did that for me, so that's what that's about.
Yeah, you can visualize it as you were saying.
It's one of my favorite ones I've ever written, and I've written a few. I've got like 28 that I'm actually making a poetry book.
I have absolutely no time on the weekday to do that with a full-time job. And so for me personally, I'm trying to figure out how to best spend my 48 hours on the weekends. In a way, like the work, like the video and content keeps coming in, and I am starting to get like a little overwhelmed. But it's definitely something I want to do, and definitely something that needs to be heard. And it's definitely something that is very powerful.
Everybody is struggling. It's not just you. You look at people, especially nowadays with like Instagram and Facebook and all these other stupid apps, and everybody looks like their life is so perfect, but that's just what they want the world to see. I look at people sometimes and I think, wow, how can she have that confidence? How can she feel that way? And on the inside of all those people who feel like they have their lives together is a person struggling. So I think something that I have to remind myself daily, or a lot of times, is that just because they make it appear that they're in this perfect spot, they're not. Everybody's struggling. So don't judge somebody or look at somebody and think, I want what they have, because on the inside, that's not what they have. They have the same things that you do.
Something I say to myself a lot is keep your head down and keep pushing. that has kept me going through a lot of things, from bad days on the road to many bad days in basic training. Keep your head down, keep pushing. Pain doesn't last forever. You will get through it. You will see the better side. And something that I'm learning myself a lot more right now, the older I've gotten, is that you don't always have to push by yourself. It's taken me a long time to realize that people want to be there with you, and sometimes you have to ask, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sharing the weight is a lot easier, but keep pushing. Always keep pushing. Never stop.
Well, I was born and raised in Hawaii, and I never thought that I would end up in Nashville. That's for sure. Because I always knew that it probably wasn't going to stay in Hawaii, but I didn't really have any idea as to where the lines in the map would kind of take me. I met my current husband a year and a half ago, and within 6 months of knowing each other, we'd gotten engaged. And maybe 2 months after that, I agreed to move to Tennessee. And I guess I leaned on the words finding out because it felt like news to me, even though that was something that I knew I would need to do if things were gonna work. And he is my best friend, he's the love of my life. I had to make a lot of sacrifices. I left home, I left all of my friends and all of my family. Family was always kind of everything to me, and I didn't learn that until I was away from them. I guess certainly taken them for granted, that they were within arm's reach. And another thing that I took for granted was the fact that I grew up in a proverbial and quite literal paradise. I mean, people dream of spending 5 minutes there, and I spent 22 and a half years there. And I didn't just go to California or Washington or Oregon, somewhere that most people from Hawaii end up. It was here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I don't have music abilities, so the dreams that I had definitely would have never taken me here had it not been for him. And it's been really hard, but it's been really worth it. But I definitely know that I became somebody that I respected a lot more after I was able to make all those sacrifices. And I realized that I didn't have to justify it to anybody that wasn't on board to see me happy. When I told all of my family and my friends, it was a huge shock to them, but they also knew that I was gonna, whether or not they agreed, I was gonna do it. And they've been amazing enough to stay in my life and answer all of my phone calls and my texts and my sporadic moments of outreach and need, because they know that I don't need to be with them to show them that I love them. This is what I needed to do to be happy. I've learned how to make friends. I've learned how to stand up for the things that I believe in. I've learned to make really, really hard decisions and be okay with it. And I've learned to really let go of a lot of things that I didn't expect that I would have to.
A lot of these people I've kind of known, just in like different parts of life. But now it's like, oh wait, like I don't actually know their story. And I think that's cool that we asked that question of like, what has made you the man or the woman that you are today? And it's like, could literally be anything, whether it's how they were raised, how, a job, a passion, a trauma, so many different things. And I think it's been energizing but exhausting because it kind of gives you some like you're you're doing it for a bigger cause than just for content. I think that's been a really cool thing of like, it's a sacrifice for both of us for sure, because it's, when I get off work, I come home and I do 3 photo shoots and then I go to work the next day. And
I'm constantly thinking like, do I need B-roll here? Like, do I need overlays there? Like, I need to do anything with the audio? Am I getting enough content of like Eva, you know?
Really want it to be done right now because I just want to see it.
Me too.
I just want to see it because I know it's going to be so cool.
My dad just passed away last month, and there was a lot of conflict there just because like I didn't really know what to feel or what to do. He was up in Michigan, I was down in Nashville, and we weren't particularly close, but like he's still dad. He was growing up. He was funny, and he would help people that were lesser off than him, but like he also scared the shit out of me. And he was a very angry, abusive alcoholic. And when I was like, I think 10 or 11, there was one particular night that it put me down a path that I knew I would either be my dad's son or be my mom's son. And I chose to do everything against what my dad did. Like everything that scared me, everything that my dad did that brought me down or scared me or my family, like I would do the opposite. I wasn't gonna go down that path. I wasn't gonna bring that negativity to light. I wasn't gonna spur it on or throw gas on that fire. That's why I didn't drink till I was 21, just because alcohol scared the shit out of me. Yeah, my dad, in one way or another, did a lot to me, for me. But I would say I am who I am today because of him.
I would tell my 10-year-old self that you are stronger than you think you are, and that you have more authority than you think you do. That when things happen to you where you feel a certain way, that isn't the truth. You have the power to stand up and be who you want to be and say what you want to say. There was one thing that I wish that everyone could understand. It's how loved they are as they are, and how important they are, and that them being who they really are it's like a vital puzzle piece in like the whole scheme of the world. And I wish everyone fully understood how special and how loved they were, because I feel like if everyone knew just how loved they were by the creator of the universe, then everything would like work out, you know.
I've gone through a lot of traumatic experiences in my life that made me really kind of being a little bit more of like the stronger side, because I wrestled with addiction a lot in my life. I wrestled with a lot of depression, a lot of suicide ideations, as well as suicide attempts. And I've also been toiling with a lot of anxiety and depression, and I dealt with a lot of abuse growing up. Was in a very abusive household, even though it was pretty much a middle-class family. Kind of didn't know as to what exactly it was back in the day. Really kind of made me think about everything, and showing myself that, you know, I have scars on my body from a lot of those traumatic experiences. I have scars from recently, I've had scars from the past, and it doesn't define as to who I am anymore as an individual. Just shows as to how strong of an individual that I've overcome, because I have gone through a lot. And even being here in Nashville for almost 2 years, I've gone through a lot. Really has made me kind of grow up in the sense of realizing that we all need help at one point in our life. And the most rewarding thing is when you actually physically need to say, I need help, I need to take a step back. And getting that help has really kind of made me see that I'm not the victim anymore in those situations. I'm not the victim at all in those moments. I'm actually an overcomer. I'm a overachiever with those, and realizing that that's just a part of my past, it's a part of my story. But it doesn't define me anymore as a human being, and it doesn't define me as anything less of a human being. What I would say to my 10-year-old self: don't give up in those hard moments. To not believe the lies of the enemy saying that you're worthless, that you should just cut, that you should go abuse the drugs that you've been abusing, that you are truly loved by not only God, you are truly loved by your family, you are truly loved by your best friends, and you know who those friends are, and not give up with that. What I would tell somebody that's in one of my crises, that if I were in, is just to actually say and get the courage to get help and to say I need help, because we all don't want to say that we need help. We don't want to actually say, hey, I need help, because that puts a big target, I feel like, on any of us, especially in mainstream society, when mental health is really kind of downplayed. And so just telling somebody, hey, just telling anybody, it's always great to get help, because you're able to get an outside view from not only somebody, let's say, in a facility like rehab center, but even for a therapist or a psychiatrist saying that I need help with this moment, and to just not give up, and to really push forward and push hard. And just every day is a battle when you get out of bed. That's always what my thing is that as long as I'm able to get out of bed every day, then my depression is not winning. My suicide ideation is not winning today. My anxiety especially is not going to win today. So it's just having those battles, just go ahead and trying to win them, and knowing that you are going to win them, knowing that you are going to overcome them.
Growing up being a super gangly child that loved books and loved video games and used to hang out with the theater crew, and maybe even sometimes would get picked on being that child, my glasses and my braces, all of those things that you think maybe you're a little ashamed of, or maybe you get picked on, can end up turning into things that can bless you later on in life. So it's like those things that all collectively make you who you are can sometimes contribute to just who you turn out to be in your story and end up being a blessing. Be true to yourself. Don't listen to the naysayers. The people that are meant to be in your life and accept you for who you are the ones that are meant to be in your life. And the ones that don't accept you are not meant to be a part of your destiny.
So I think the events and circumstances that have made me who I am today really are just experiences that I've had in my life. I think we learn the most through experiences, and I think experiences shape us into who we are. For me, a big part of that was getting sick 9 years ago and having to deal with getting diagnosed, dealing with doctors who didn't believe me or wouldn't advocate for me, finally getting diagnosed and learning the treatment, and just honestly learning how humbling that process can be, and also how much you can learn from that. I would tell my 10-year-old self that you have to keep advocating for yourself. No one else is going to do that for you. And just to keep fighting and find that strength. And if you have that in you, you can conquer anything. Something else that I would either say to my younger self or just to anyone in general would be to allow yourself to feel and to let those feelings turn into productive actions. What I would say to the world is something that I've had to learn my whole life, but specifically these past few years dealing with health issues and trauma, is wait to worry. I live my day-by-day life that way. It's not worth spending hours and days getting worried over something you can't control. Spend the time worrying about and taking time to react to those circumstances, because that is in your control.
So January 6th, 2019, we sat at our old house on the porch, and we were like, we just wanted to do something creative. And
we didn't want that year to go by. I remember that.
Yeah.
We're like, let's not let this year go by. We're gonna do something fun. We're gonna have this project. And we're like, yeah, we're gonna do it.
It felt cool for you to create an opportunity for people to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, no one's ever, like, literally that was what changed my life and like becoming a Christian was someone sat me down and asked me my story for the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, no one's ever asked me that before.
Yeah.
Like no one ever really cared.
That's crazy. I never thought
it changed my life. And I didn't even know I wasn't even like becoming a Christian in that moment. It was just literally, that was where like growing up in a difficult situation and me experiencing what hope really was for the first time in my life.
We're at 38 people.
There's 12 people left?
12 people left.
So what are you going to do with the rest of the people that like passed the 50? Like what is the plan?
I have no idea. It's got 4 stories and us talking a little bit.
Yeah.
And she's 22 minutes in.
Like act.
So she has like 46 more stories probably.
Oh my god. So at first we're thinking maybe 45 minutes to an hour long video. Well, no, like if you subtract the 2 people that said no, well now it's just 1, right? So we're thinking this will be like 2 or 3 hours long. No, 48, 47, 46, 44 more stories. It's probably gonna be a movie. Or like a Netflix series. We ain't got no time for that.
50 stories at 5 minutes. That's 4 hours.
That's more of a docu-series.
I say you just put it all together anyways. And then
we can break it
see
up.
how long it is.
Who are you and where have you been and what have you seen and what does that mean to you, you know? You're sitting there thinking this is such a privilege to hold these spaces for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I imagine other people feel like, wow, I feel so grateful that you asked, you know, that what I could say would, I don't know, matter. You know?
What has made me the person I am today is pain. Going through something that I never would have imagined I would have to face. I'm in recovery now, and coming into this kind of considering what I would say, I've learned that everyone's in recovery at a certain point in their life from something, but the difference for me has been what happened when it all fell apart and what I did after that. And even saying that, it's not what I did. It was a power greater than myself. For me, that's God. I just surrendered. I gave up and I let God take it. I let the people around me carry me. I did something different than I had ever done before. And I think I've learned a lot in that sometimes we have this idea of what we want in life and how to get there. And the biggest revolutionary change for me has been letting go of how I thought I would get there. Whether it be making more friends or being happy, having joy again, laughing, just having a better life. Started with all my life in pieces on the ground around me, giving up and asking for help and taking on simple changes and practicing new discipline on a daily basis and taking that one day at a time. The point is not to be perfect. The point is not to please everyone. The point is joy. The point is being a human with other humans. And the point is that God wants you to experience all of that. God wants you to laugh. God wants you to mess up. And God wants you to find God when you mess up and when He makes it better. The point is not to do it by yourself. The point is to do it with God and with others. And it's better to have fun and not try to figure it out all by yourself in this brain. It's an echo chamber up there, and it's going to get really hard, but don't isolate, and just let it be. It is okay to ask for help. Some of the things that have been ingrained in us of what is humiliating, or what is not supposed to be like that, or we have these preconceived ideas in our head of what our life is supposed to look like, and so also a lot of preconceived ideas of what failing is. Finding something that will help give you the tools. There are so many resources to start thinking in a different way and walking in a different way to actually see change start happening, and that we're not supposed to do it in and of ourselves. I think we were created to need a power greater than ourselves, outside of ourselves. And that's how the impossible has become possible for me.
Everything that has happened up until today has shaped and molded me and prepared me for whatever is to happen next. I was in Las Vegas when the shooting happened at the Route 91 festival. And at the time, I don't think I know for certain that I did not realize how big of a thing it was going to be and what an impact it was going to have on everyday things. I remember flying back the next day and just being in shock that it happened and not even realizing that it was this big thing. And landing back in Nashville to a town that I didn't really know, not knowing a lot of people, whole new sense of community, and attempted to go to school the next morning to teach. And I got to school and I just couldn't hold it together, and I got sent home. And 2 weeks later, started seeing a counselor, and he was just like, yep, school's not right for you right now. Diagnosed with PTSD. And in 2.5 months after that, had to make the tough decision to leave the classroom. And that was not easy. That's 12 years of my life that I've known, and it's who I am. It's how I feel like I've accomplished something, and I had to start all over. So whole new town, whole new career, walking away from this big piece of who I was, and had to figure it all out. And I wasn't sure if I should stay or should I go. And I remember getting a phone call from a friend in Philadelphia in February, and her saying, hey, we've got a teacher that's out. We need a long-term sub. Would you want to come back? And I called my sister and I said, I don't know what to do, because part of me knows if I go back, that's a sense of home and that's comfortable, and I'm not comfortable now, and how uncomfortable do I really want to be? And she said, what does your gut tell you? And I said, I feel like I'm supposed to stay in Nashville. And she's like, then I think you know your answer. So I've been here ever since, trying to figure out who I am without the classroom, without the kids in my life every day, and deal with this big thing that happened, and adjust to a whole new sense of security and being insecure, and knowing that what happened probably won't happen again, but could it? Absolutely. So it's been an adjustment. It's been hard. It's not been easy. Definitely some days are better than others. You try to forget what happened, and then sometimes it just kind of smacks you right back in the face, and there's no forgetting that. It's always just a part of who you are. So I definitely don't take for granted the days that I laugh And the days that are dark, I just kind of let myself go through it, knowing that it's going to be better tomorrow. So.
Circumstances have you gone through where you thought you would not come out of it, where you have not only come on the other side of it, but now it makes you the stronger woman that you are, the strong woman that you are today?
I haven't talked to my dad in 4 years maybe, and I think that has like ripped me like from the inside out in ways that I don't even know how to describe. Where just so much like anger, and how can you just say no to like loving somebody? And I think that actually has been more challenging than the loss of my mom, because my dad, to my knowledge, is still alive. And on the really rough days, I think about he's like still choosing not to be in my life. So that's rough. And just the narrative of things that he would say to me in high school about you aren't responsible. I remember one time we were on the phone and I was like trying to get him to pay for something schooling wise, and that kind of became my like MO. If he can just provide for me financially, he doesn't have to be responsible for anything else. But I've got these bills to pay. And it was a really manipulative relationship ultimately, but I remember I was like bawling on the phone, and he made me repeat to him, I'm not responsible, just like over and over again. And I think years later now, having gone through a ton of therapy and trying to like be an adult, those tapes like that just play in my mind. So it wasn't until this summer actually that I like Googled like affirmations that you can tell yourself, and it's a list of like 60 something. And on my way to work, it's a 5-minute drive, and I would just read this list, driving very safe, I know. Just read this list over myself, and it's like, I am responsible. People are drawn to me. I have the Holy Spirit inside of me. God sees me as his temple, etc. And I ended up reworking that list and making it my own. And it has been crazy powerful. I think it's powerful the ways that we can kind of like rewrite our narrative and incorporate all of these things that if we allow them to suppress and like overtake us spiritually, emotionally, mentally, even manifesting itself like physically too, that it does have some power over you. But to really take back those things, dig up all of that hurt and look it in the face and just say, like, you're wrong, you were wrong. I would say that it more so just has been like little moments of this like trauma or whatever, that over time you just believe it.
Okay, I think I do. Am I ready? Good to go? Okay. I moved to Nashville about 6 years ago to pursue a career playing drums. And I think that shaped me pretty significantly, because we always joke, with my friends in the music industry, that you live 100 lives before most people even, live one, because you have to be in so many different experiences. And I think that has been really difficult for me, but it's also really pushed me to like grow and to just learn things I don't think I would have ever learned be able to work with different people that I would have never maybe met or worked with previous to that. Just taking captive every thought that comes to your mind and surrendering that to God, because there's a period of my life where I let all sorts of people give me input that shouldn't have been giving me input, or I let myself think things that were not true about myself and who I was in Christ. And I think that led to a long period of depression for me. About 3 years after moving to Nashville, I had like about a year where I was just severely depressed, and I was letting all sorts of input come into my life that was not from God. And just coming out of that and growing out of that, the biggest weapon I've had is to surrender every thought that comes into my mind to Christ and say, who am I in Christ, and what does this have to do with who He says I am and what is true? And I think if I had known that at a young age, it would have saved me a lot of pain to just really be fierce in protecting what goes into my head and what goes into my heart, and allowing that to shape me. Always keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter how many failures, no matter how many mistakes, and just keep moving. Because one thing that I've seen out of just working a little bit in the music industry is the people that succeed are the ones that no matter what happens, they just keep working at it and they don't give up. And I think that's so important, especially in our industry, because there's so much criticism and so much, of what you do. Just the success of that depends on how it's received by other people. And I think that can be so discouraging. But just to keep grinding away and keep being persistent. And I think that applies to other areas of life as well. But just to keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep going no matter what.
I come from a divorced household, so that was a big shaper of what I've become and who I've become. I grew up with a very self-sufficient mother, and that has made me extremely self-sufficient, and makes me the nurturer that I am today, I think. Take a step back. Don't be all in all the time. There's a time and a place to be all in, but it's not always all in. I would say, I'm in the process of, I kind of went through, I guess what you would call a recalling to God, I guess, kind of thing. And so I'm in the process of writing a book, and I would say find something that maybe sparks some sort of passion. I didn't know writing a book was my passion, but here we are. But I would say find something that's a passion of yours and use it for the furthering of the kingdom, I would say. But
turn some music on because
get the studio vibes.
Yeah, nothing worse than taking pictures.
Strong women in my life, continually championing for me, and not giving up on me when I give up on myself.
What would you tell your 10-year-old self?
Your biological father is not your father, and the things that you hate the most about yourself are going to end up being the things that people cherish the most about you. And stay close to people who feel like sunlight.
What would you want to tell the world, whether it's encouragement, whether it's advice?
Follow me on Instagram.
There you go.
I'm just kidding.
Get your name out there.
Yeah. Check in on people. Check in on your friends that seem to have everything in order and with their lives and seem to have everything going for them. Be vulnerable with your friends and the people that you care about the most. Therapy is important. Carve space for other people to be safe in their feelings and nourish relationships that feed you joy.
What would you tell, like, if you had to tell your 10-year-old self something, what would you tell her?
Recognize your anger and don't shut yourself down emotionally. It's not good. It's not fun.
I'm in post-production and it's a lot. Everything is going pretty smoothly. I still have about 2 whole months, it's a little bit over 2 months to get this finished. A lot of administration is going on and I'm not good at that. So these stories, they're insane. And then, you put music to it and it's just like, there's no way people are not going to be touched. We finished shooting right before the outbreak really hit Tennessee, which in a way was a blessing because we are now in hiding. It's been okay, and we are doing pretty well. No one's sick, and so everything's going smoothly. If anything, I have more time now for the documentary. So unfortunately, this is a blessing in disguise.
Stop fighting to make everyone else love you. There's nothing you have to do to earn love. And you really are okay just the way you are. You don't have to measure up. Regardless of what society says, regardless of what a screen says, you really are okay to be quirky, to be funny, be bold in yourself and take the chances that, and even if people are gonna laugh, but take those opportunities to grow from that. But don't shut yourself off from loving others. Always love others, regardless of how they make you feel. I was bullied a lot. And I wish that they would finally, someday, someone, somewhere, would put the word bully under a category of abuse. We have domestic and physical and emotional and verbal. That's what bullying is. And it tears you down and rips you apart. And the sticks and stones, I remember the sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. They kill. Kids are killing themselves because of words. And it's very easy to hide behind a keyboard, even nowadays. I think it was the consistency of others, of a few people. There was definitely a consistency of people pursuing me with love and genuine godly character that really led me to believe that I could be just as joyful and happy and free. And even when I first said that, I love Jesus and want you in my heart, I was so boggled down with the mentality and the programming that I still had to win people's approval because I didn't want to upset someone, because I didn't want to be attacked with words or harsh actions. But I didn't give up. Every day is a series of walls, and you can let an action become, or a memory or your past become your truth, which builds up walls, or you can realize that those people that did that to you, like, first of all, your hurt is real, your feelings are real. We need to learn to validate. Like, no one validated my feelings. It was sticks and stones, you need to get over it. Or basically just toss it under the rug. Kids will be kids. Well, I'm just glad I didn't give up. because the kids who were kids to me weren't nice, and I don't know. I'm so glad that people didn't give up on me, because I almost gave up on myself. Yeah, I thought you had to be perfect in order to be accepted, and you don't. You really, really don't. You are perfect exactly how you are. You really are. Don't fake it until you make it. Because fakeness fades, looks fade, life goes by, and I'm thankful that people didn't give up on me. And I don't ever want to give up on loving people, because people first chose to love me.
I think that transition of moving here, and I've been here 7 years now in Nashville, and the transition that was a big leap at the time has been super life altering and for the better for me and everything I do. We all have gifts, and it's like, I feel like there's a deeper meaning to even the gift that we have. So for me, I play music and love what I do, and I'm lucky enough to do it full time, but to me, there's even a bigger purpose than just playing music. Like if I leave a show or a gig or an album or whatever it is, I want somebody to leave inspired. One of the best compliments I've ever gotten was a guy that walked up after a show and showed me his Amazon or his phone, and he went on Amazon and purchased a harmonica. He's like, dude, I saw you playing harmonica and you inspired me to go get one. So I'm gonna get lessons, and he had already bought it. And so for me, that was like, man, I'm really doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And inspiring people, letting them know their gift might not be mine, but inspiring them to be better. It's kind of like the whole Kobe Mamba mentality thing. You may have never even touched a basketball, but it's like, just work hard, be the best you can be. I feel like that's the mentality I take into what my career is and just every day in life. And if I can uplift people to do that in whatever they have going on, what their passion is, what they love, whether it's their family, job, hobby, whatever it is, then I've found success in that.
What has made me who I am? That's a tough question. There's a lot packed into that, but I guess the biggest things is growing up. I went through a lot with dealing with bullying and like with just relationships with kids at school, and like from the time I was in 5th grade all the way up through high school, and like the changes that I had to deal with people, and how to kind of deal with social interaction, because as the oldest of I had 2 younger brothers, so I mean they would look to me, but like I didn't have like a real role model to look to, and so I had to kind of figure a lot of things out on my own. So there's a lot of like weirdness with like how to kind of fit in, like most people deal with. But there was some death threats, and like I got almost killed a couple times. But going through with growing up in church and going to school, and like there were a lot of people that were not great to me, but I had a lot of I had some people that I could that I found that helped me work through some issues, and one of the biggest things to me was a guy at my church. He was kind of at that point he was the leader of like the youth like music program and everything like that. So he connected me with the guy who would be my guitar teacher, put me in a place where I could sing and be in front of a band, and that helped with some self-confidence and learning how to project and like not like just let people walk over me and stuff like that. So I guess that's that for me, I guess, would be what helped me the most and like kind of put me on a path to being who I am today. The relationships that you build with people are important, and the more that you do that and the quicker you can figure that out, the easier life is going to be and the more rewarding it's going to be. What would I tell the world? I guess the best piece of advice I guess I could give would be something that my granddad told my dad, and that he always told me, is figure out what you would do for free and then go after that. Money's important, and like being smart with your money is important, but like figuring out ways to make the most money and to, you know, whatever, and to have the big house or, you know, whatever, going after the American dream kind of type deal. That's not gonna make you happy in the long run. Like money will come and go, but if you're following what you're really good at and what you love and doing something that actually makes you happy, that translates to other people, and you do a better job at it, and then money follows. Don't worry about the financial stuff.
Born and raised in a small town, I think that there's a lot that comes with that, and understanding roots and the importance of family and family dinners around the table, and not losing that essence of family, and then kind of spreading my wings and going off and exploring the entertainment industry and singing, and always wanting to be an actress, but not ever pursuing that because I was scared. But through all of that, I honestly experienced a lot of failures and made a ton of mistakes, and a lot of times those things coincide with fear. And actually, I'm grateful for all of that, because I think that the mistakes and all of those things that have happened in my life have actually made me who I am today, because of the wisdom and everything that I've gained on the other side of it. So I think that you can look at challenges and you can look at failures and mistakes as a negative, or you can actually assess what happened and say, okay, I don't want that to happen again. What do I do? And so through that, I think that I've actually gained a lot of worldly insight, a lot of insight into who I am, and am a better person because of it. My 10-year-old self, I would say keep sticking up for those that are bullied, and keep sticking up for the underdogs. Be kind, and put forward the thing that you probably wish that you would have later on in your life when you then see the other side of it and you're bullied. Always put forward the kindness and the love, and continue looking out at those that really need friendship and need love, and operate out of your heart the way that you already do. Because when I was 10, I wasn't really hurt yet, if that makes sense. I grew up in an amazing family, and so I think it was easier for me to just extend kindness and love, because that's what I had in my home. And those people today, those that I stuck up for, and the ones that were hurt and everything, or didn't have maybe what I had, they're actually different people because of what I did, even at a young age. And so don't underestimate the power of the impact that you can make, even being a little girl. Kindness is, I feel like, a forgotten word anymore. Everybody's so busy talking behind screens, so busy comparing, so busy getting offended. You know, people don't give offense, you have to take it. And so it's your choice whether you get offended or not. And so I just encourage people, stop getting offended over the littlest things. We have so many bigger things to be concerned about. I think that what is honestly going to be the change is when we can learn to focus less on ourselves and actually love others more, because we live in such a self-absorbed, obsessed life these days. Selfless love is thinking of yourself less. And so looking out and seeing where you can actually give, and we all have gifts and we all have things within us that are brewing to come to life. We are all creatives. We cannot avoid creativity because we are made by the Creator, and the Creator is the ultimate creative entity, everything, you know. You can help change the world with that, because the kids that are sitting in the classrooms and they're, you know, told that they're ADD and they're, you know, fiddling around all this stuff, maybe they just need to play music. Maybe they need to pick up a guitar. Maybe they need to dance. Learn to love yourself and the beautiful, unique, creative being that you are.
I've stepped into more of myself just by learning about more of who I am. And that's really vague and really non-specific, but as I've walked through life and then also walked with God and walked alongside Jesus, He's shown me the parts of myself that I didn't know that I had. The journey of self-discovery is actually the piece that has made me who I am. I feel so much purpose because of the way the Lord has brought me through just learning more about who I am and the things that I love, and that's people, and that's problem solving for the sake of people, and that's being compassionate and serving them.
For me, I would tell my 10-year-old self, don't be a perfectionist. I was a huge perfectionist, still am in a lot of ways, but I would just wrestle with being perfect at everything, and I wouldn't stop until I had it 100%. Like whether it was homework in school, or whether it was baseball was the sport that I played, whether it was trying to perfect my craft there, or it didn't even matter what it was would just always be perfect. And I think I missed out on a lot of, whether it's friendships or whether it's just time spent with people that I otherwise would have had. And I don't regret that, but I think learning about myself and knowing that we don't have to be perfect. We're not meant to be perfect. Now we can strive for excellence, don't get me wrong, but we're not supposed to be perfect. And that was a huge burden that was lifted off of me, I think, sometime later in life, that I was like, I want to be perfect, sure, I want to go after Jesus, but I'm not going to be. And so releasing myself to fail and to be okay, I think, would be something that I wish my 10-year-old self knew. So to the men out there, it's okay to ask a girl out.
Hey!
I'm for real. I think about this a lot. Like, I think a lot of guys are scared to ask girls out because they're trying to be something that they're not.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Wherever all my men are at, just do it. Ask a girl out.
Got you, boys. Your fairy tale exists, and I don't mean a Cinderella story with a ball gown and all of the perfect details and all the things, but that the Lord has a way of knowing exactly what we need and when we need it, and it's going to be better than we could ever ask or imagine. There were times I think especially when we were dating, where I had this idea of who I wanted to be with for the rest of my life, and you were some of those things, but you were more than the things that I wanted. I
wasn't the guy from, what was it? Vampire Diaries?
No, you weren't.
From Twilight, whatever it was.
But it's like in moments where I was dating him and I would say, Lord, you thought of that? Like, you thought of even that. Or even in this season of life where we're here in Nashville, and the job that I'm working is just, it's the perfect fit. It's not perfect. Our marriage is not perfect, but it's exactly what I needed and then some. And I just believe that it exists for all of us. It's just we have to be willing to take a step in faith. And then honestly just be willing to lay ourselves down so that God can actually move. He can't move if we don't give him space to.
Oops. You guys are fun.
Why are you doing that?
It would be October of 1993, and I was 5, almost 6 years old. And I randomly came down with this disease called Guillain-Barré. And it's a disease where your antibodies attack your muscles, and your brain can't get the message to your muscles to move. So for me, it stayed localized in my legs, and I was paralyzed from the waist down for months. I lived at a hospital, the University of North Carolina Children's Hospital, I lived there for 3 months, and they poked and prodded and tested and drew blood and x-rays and all the things to try to figure out how to fix me. And when I was finally released, they told my mom and I not to expect me to walk for at least another year. And God had other plans. I remember one afternoon or one evening in that following January, I was sitting on the couch in my living room, and my brother was across from me and my mom was to the left of me. And as clearly as Matthew 9:6 describes, where Jesus tells a man to stand up and walk, I heard God's voice tell me to stand up and walk. And so I looked at my mom and said, "Mommy, look at me," and stood up and walked for the first time, and God healed me miraculously in that moment. And I knew it was God. I understood fully who Jesus was, and I accepted him into my life as my Savior and got baptized, and you couldn't tell me anything different. I knew it was God, and I knew that a miracle had happened. But unfortunately, I didn't really understand what discipleship and lordship really meant. So from there, my parents were divorced. My dad had battled drugs from beforehand, and my parents were divorced and on and off. And he finally left when I was 11 years old. And I went through extreme depression and suicidal thoughts, well, suicide attempts. And all throughout high school, just horrible self-esteem, didn't love myself, didn't think anything of myself. All the way into college, so my freshman year of college, I was invited to attend this Bible study. I actually hadn't been in church for a long time, and was invited to attend because someone invited me to sing. So it's so funny. I only showed up because I wanted to sing. How selfish. But anyway, but I heard the gospel presented, and in that moment God said, if I am who I say I am, and I did what I said I did, then you have to choose today. And that was spring of 2007, and the rest of my life from that moment has been living out that yes. And it has taken me on a journey that I never, ever would have imagined. If it was up to me, I had this whole plan. I was going to double major in English and French, live in France for a few years, make a lot of money being a translator, come back to the States or come back to North Carolina, get married, have kids, settle down, sing in my church choir, and die. Like, that's all I wanted to do with my life. And God, through so many amazing moments, slowly pulled back my plan and showed me that he had something bigger for me. And that involved so much pain and so much hurt because I had to let go of the life that I thought I wanted. But once I did, I became someone I never thought I could be.
We just picked this song and
I
watch
slapped it on
this.
there.
She just put it on there. She
put the
didn't
song
like
on there.
line it up with anything.
Nothing.
So watch this. Watch it line up with the music.
A lot of these people I've just like,
hey.
And that's beyond what I was even thinking.
Yes. Like she had all the video cut up.
I never thought to even think of the background.
Or like, what is part of your story that has made you literally who you are right now?
I think the biggest thing that shaped my life was my mom's illness. She had early onset Parkinson's, which she got when I was probably about 5 years old and was in a wheelchair by the time I was 8, and taught me compassion. Also taught me a lot of anger, a lot of dealing with how unfair the world is, how unfair life is, and essentially get over it and deal with it, create solutions instead of problems. And so it gave me, as difficult as the situation it was, it gave me a lot of tools to deal with life and adversity, changes, and also successes and good times. You know, it does get better. Life is full of surprises and wonderful people and good times, sunshine, flowers. There are weeds in there, of course, and those weeds only make the flowers look prettier. And my 10-year-old self was really kind of sad. So but I found most of my life to be pretty happy. So told my 10-year-old self to just get through it, and the flowers and the sunshine are on the other side. Persevere. That once again, same vein of what I've said before, we're gonna get through this.
Yeah.
And, just love each other, be happy, create positivity, do good, and be self-respective to see who the person you are, so that when you're going to sleep at night looking in the mirror, you know that you're good and the guy above knows you're good. And really, those are the only two people that you really have to impress. Everything else happens naturally when you work on those two.
I would tell the world to take care of your soul too. It's valid to take care of your physical body and to do things like take care of the environment and the other people around you, but don't neglect your soul and your creativity or the things that really drive you and make you who you are. Go do something you want to do. Buy yourself a bouquet of flowers and stare at them for a while, or go on a hike, or do things that feed you, because there are certain things that don't feed you like physical food does not. You, as a person, are going to always be the same person you were when you were a kid in some form or another, so don't forget to keep feeding that person, because it's going to get you where you need to go, whether or not you believe it. So.
I think that's been a really cool thing of like, it's a sacrifice for both of us, for sure.
Oh my gosh!
Like, this is beyond, I don't think of the beats, even if I'm like putting stuff to the beats, I don't think of the background beat. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. Like the
the off beats.
And it like doo, and then it's a picture.
And I honestly built this whole part without the music. Like, I just put in the music 5 minutes ago and I slapped it in there. Like, I didn't.
Like, I literally watched her. She
like,
just went. She went
literally,
boop, and then she expanded it. She goes. Zzz.
Like, it's syncing. Like, pretty much all of that is synced by beat, and I didn't do that. Like, this is not me doing this. Like, in the beginning of this whole documentary, I knew that I could not do this. That this is beyond me. This whole 1.5-hour movie thing that we're filming right now is beyond me. I can't do this in my own strength. Like, God is literally taking me through this.
I started dating this guy, and he had like asked me out for an entire year, and I was like not into it at all. I was like, he's creepy, no thanks. And I like really felt like he just wasn't like a good fit, like there was something off. And then like the week before, he was like, let's go to coffee. And he's like, what's it gonna hurt you? And I was just like so done with dealing with him. So I was just like, okay, like I'm gonna go, we're gonna go to coffee. I'll never talk to him again. Long story short, we started dating, and after like 3 weeks of us dating, I remember being on FaceTime, and I remember just like the Holy Spirit being like, you need to stop what you're doing. And I was like, well, I really like him, he's cute. I'm lonely because I just moved to a new place, and then I just totally ignored it. Well, fast forward a 1.5 years, and we ended up being engaged, and I, at that point, kind of started like realizing like there were some like major things going on, and my parents and my family and everyone around me, they were kind of like, there are all these red flags, why aren't you seeing it? And truly, like being in a situation like that, I didn't notice the things that I should have noticed. And I ended up calling off the wedding only like 3 weeks before we were supposed to get married. And now looking back, like I had found myself like in an extremely abusive situation, and in the moment I was like, well, it's just because like he loves me, and it was such like a warped sense of security and a sense of love, and it was just really like where I thought I would never put myself. And at the end of the day, I remember like growing up in church and hearing girls be like, oh well, like I would never put myself in that situation. And
then I got myself in a situation that I said I would never put myself in. For 3 years after that, like, he had followed me and stalked me and would like hack into my computer systems and would lie about like having cancer and dying and would always like reel me out and then like reel me back in. And I truly had felt like I was just on like a hamster wheel. And I never really advanced, like I was just kind of staying stagnant. And I had went to the Belonging Conference and the Lord had given me a vision of these like chain link fence, like the old, like fence, but the old chain link like for jails. And he had given me this vision of like me taking this sword and like smashing him. And he's like, Kaylee, I've already died for this, but until you actually choose to walk it out, like you're just gonna keep staying in this continual cycle. Like I totally ignored it, kind of like I ignored the whole like, you shouldn't be dating this person. And then at the end of conference, like the Lord gave me the same vision again. And it was like, I remember I just like took the sword in the vision and I was just like slicing it up, like slicing these chains up. And I like truly kind of walked in freedom really from that point. And it was like any fear or anything that I had felt for like 3 years of just like being on this cycle had actually ended. Really riddled with fear and riddled just with hurt, honestly, of someone constantly coming in and abusing me in my life. And in all reality, like I continued to like let that happen because I had a false understanding of what really like love was with somebody. Like I truly feel like I've listened to the voice of what the Holy Spirit tells me to do, and it hasn't always looked extremely conventional. But I think the biggest thing that I have learned, or like what I guess I would tell myself from the experience that I was just kind of talking about, is that obedience is always worth it. And it may cost you something, but like in the long run, the obedience part will always be worth whatever it takes.
Like, I'm just so blown away how, like, I don't have to have it all together. And, like, God's really showing me that. Because in the beginning, all I said was, yes, I'll do a documentary. I'll do 30, 45 minute thing. That'll be a stretch. And now I'm doing a 2 hour. By the way, it's going to be probably 2 hours. But, like, this is so beyond me. And I'm understanding that I don't have to have it all together.
Right.
Like, God is literally carrying me through this, and all I said was yes.
Who's this?
Who's here?
Oh my god. I think I can attribute the person that I am today to really the influence that so many people have had in my life. Life experiences, experiencing the highest of highs and truly the lowest of lows. That I think that teaches you what life is, and that's, you can expect that out of this life. It's kind of unavoidable. It's some of the darker and deeper parts, but it's something that you have to dig into. And the more that you push it off, the scarier it gets. But if you can truly accept the fact that you have to face those things head on, I think there's a lot of beauty that can come out of those ashes. So. If I had to tell the world one thing, first and foremost, I would say know the person of Jesus. It's just something that it's been rocky for me, is understanding who Jesus is, but in more recent years, he's made himself a little more evident in just some life tragedies and things that have happened. But just know how he lived and apply that to your own life.
My salvation and my walk with the Lord has been the most defining experience that has shaped who I am today, because there have been so many smaller experiences or even harder experiences that would have been handled very differently had I not known the Lord at the time that I walked through those things. Losing 6 people in my life who have all died, whether expectedly or unexpectedly, in a matter of 2 years, and just not understanding and not knowing why those things were happening, and some who did not know the Lord and some who loved the Lord. And I can't imagine walking through those without having the Lord as my comforter and as my sustainer in the midst of the struggles.
I grew up in a home with an alcoholic father who was also addicted to pornography, addicted to smoking, addicted to just attention and self-service. And then I also had my mom, who was the rock. She was the strength in my family and the one that always pointed me back to Jesus. A lot of adversity that I face in my life has really coming back to those roots of, am I going to choose to go towards a thing that can try to ease my mind or appease me or make me feel good, make me feel better? Are there certain things that I might get addicted to that will pull me down? Or am I actually going to choose to follow Christ? Am I going to choose to pursue the light and go in those directions? I'm going to choose the negative or the positive. And there's been a lot of moments over the course of my life that have hitting these roadblocks of, you know, being teased and taunted as a kid for the way that I looked, and maybe I didn't answer or respond the best way, but I always come back to Jesus. I was a part of a church, and that church essentially told me that because of my physical appearance, I was unfit to serve in ministry. And that really hit me hard. These were people that were supposed to extend grace and supposed to love me. But because of that, because of the way that I grew up, the only way that I knew how to respond in those moments was to run back to Jesus, was to go into question and have the hard conversations with him. But it was because of the way that I was raised, the way that my mom really helped instill in me, knowing that Jesus is my rock and he's the answer to any of my problems, that I can be a part of a church and have some really hurtful things said about me, or be a part of a friend group. Some people that knew me very intimately say some really hurtful things about me, but I know that ultimately Jesus was my answer, and that's what I've had to run back to.
I would say what has made me what I am is a combination of a story, a narrative, adversity, and perseverance. I was one of those kids that was born very prematurely and was not supposed to be alive. That resulted in a brain disorder called cerebral palsy. My case, though, it doesn't really look like anything's wrong, but as we know with a lot of things, sometimes things that don't look wrong, there's still something going on. In my case, it makes me kind of walk funny, and I have really bad balance. There's a lot of physical limitations that I have, but all in all, over the course of that narrative and that adversity over my life, I've been taught, and God has shown me how to see deeper through things and to look at things from a different angle, not necessarily an angle of adversity, but from an angle of dedication. So what makes me who I am is an empathetic person, a person who feels, a person who sees, who goes the extra mile, is the meeting point of the narrative of what should have been. Well, these were the cards that were dealt to you. This is what you know, you're not going to be able to walk, you're not going to be able to do these things or that thing, what have you, combined with my choice to fight those narratives and to fight those things that were spoken over me. That's what makes me who I am, and that's what God has shown me over the course of my life. It's just because you were born with something or born a certain way doesn't mean that attribute or that aspect has to define you. It becomes part of your story. It becomes part of the story that you're writing. You're not going to achieve anything by looking for a blank to fill in on a person, or looking for the list of rules that you have to obey in order to know that person sitting next to you. Just open your eyes, open your ears, you know, listen to their story, listen to what they have to say, and listen without formulating your next response, because the amount of things that you can learn from the person next to you is immeasurable compared to what we think we know about someone. As soon as we stop looking for a way to fit someone into a blank that we have on our chart, then that's when connection happens. That's when community happens. And we can't learn anything if we have our ears shut and our eyes closed to someone else's story. I know that I was given that gift not long ago in my life to just be open and be safe to talk to somebody and to be in community, in a living, breathing community of people that God has put in my life to walk with me. And I think if I were to tell the world one thing, stop looking for the flaws, start looking for the person.
Well, definitely growing up in the ministry has played a huge part in who I am today. My parents are pastors and my grandparents are pastors, so that's been fun. I grew up with a lot of change and just starting churches, like literally going from state to state, going to different schools, like every couple years, every summer we moved. So that was a lot, especially growing up, but also it came with a lot of pressure. I felt a lot of pressure, and I think I put that on myself, just feeling like I needed to be perfect. Because when you're sitting on the front row, you don't want people looking at you and saying, oh, she doesn't have it all together, and that there's something wrong with my family because they're the leaders. So you feel that, and that definitely impacted me. I really struggled with identity and finding myself outside of the church, because that was my life, was every Sunday. I would lead worship, I would go on mission trips, small groups, youth groups, everything. That was my life. And it was hard on me for a while, because I didn't really know how to navigate in the world. And then going into high school, I went to 2 separate high schools. So freshman, sophomore year, I went to one school, and then my junior, senior year, I went to another school. And then I met a guy, and I fell in love with him. And that was definitely the biggest relationship I've ever had. It was really, really intense, really quickly, and it lasted for 4 years almost, and very unhealthy, very abusive emotionally, and I lost myself in that relationship. And it was really hard because I had the church, but I didn't feel like I could really be honest at times, because I wanted to just have it all together, but I wasn't. And there was about a whole year where I just stayed home and I didn't leave the house, and I didn't have any energy, I didn't have any dreams, I didn't have any goals, because I had to eventually cut that cycle off, and because it was just back and forth, and my identity was really strapped to how he saw me and how he would respond, and if he would come back around or leave me and come back into my life and then just completely ghost me. And it was painful, especially being near early 20s, early teens. Like, it was a lot of your prime years where you're really trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do. And it was a dream of mine. And when that dream died and he left, I didn't really feel like I had anything. And it was just a hard time. But I eventually came out of that. I just stayed at home and really started to figure out who I was deep down, who I was in the Lord instead of in a person. And now I know that confidently. 5 years later, it's taken this long for me to just be okay and be confident and strong in who I know that I am in Jesus. And that's been 100% why I'm here today, because there were days that were just so dark and I didn't have any motivation to do anything. But I wrote music and I got a guitar when I was 14, so that's been huge along this whole ride. It's just something that I've always had just for me, and now I really feel like God's kind of pulling all these things out and and all the things that I love about music and connecting with people, I can really use all the pain and everything that I went through to speak to other people and use it for good. And honestly, I wouldn't change any of it, as hard as it was. And I mean, there were just some really, really hard times where I just didn't know who I was at all. But now my identity is just so strong and so firm, and I'm just excited to start walking in that.
So I've always grown up in a Christian household and was kind of raised in the church. And although that's sort of been my framework for my whole life, there have been circumstances and things along the way that have sort of pushed it to become my own faith. I've experienced some loss of some really good friends, causing me to go through a period in college asking why, and kind of having to really wrestle with why God allowed that particular instance to work out the way it did. But even in that time, it didn't pull me away from God, but yet I pulled closer to Him. And I would say when I was about probably in late high school and early in college was the time I really stopped and was like, okay, God, like I'm taking this is my story with you. And not because of my parents, not because of just being, a rule follower, but like this is where the rubber hits the road. And so as I went through college and got in the workforce and had to make a lot of decisions, like how do you talk about God in the workplace, and where's that line of preaching and professionalism? I've had to really wrestle with figuring out how faith looks and how I express it sort of in those contexts. And I would say that just these last couple of years, especially, my growth, knowing God and falling in love with Him has really come from starting to dig into His Word and really just look for materials that bring the Word to life and finding out how I can apply it. And so basically that's changed my life, not just to say that like, oh, Jesus changes everything, but really my faith in Christ has become how I see the world, how I see other people, how I love other people, why I love them, and how I make decisions in what I consider to be right and wrong, and just why life has meaning and where I get hope. And I feel like all of those things together have allowed me to speak to people in darker times that are trying to find hope, because it's something that I have found. I would also tell people, particularly Christians that have been Christians for a long time and are feeling stagnant, read your Bible. It can't be overstated. It is the way to hear, the first and primary way to hear from God. And I know a lot of people spending time listening to a lot of voices, and that's great to get teaching and to get perspective, and even sometimes to listen to opposing voices to know what you're up against. But this world is a hard place, and until Jesus comes back, it's a fight, and it is important to read your Bible. That's the way to fall in love with God. And I would say to pray. And I know these are all very spiritual things, but I think that we need to pray for things to come to fruition in our lives. We need to pray for our family and friends around us, and we need to pray how we can seek and share the gospel. Because the things that we do to build the kingdom of God that lasts for eternity, those are the things that matter. It's important to be careful how much you spend time planning and living and enjoying what you have now without thinking about the future. And I also just think heavily of eternity and what that really means. And I know it gets me into a lot of places with people because I can get really serious. But at the end of the day, what I believe is that it is a very serious thing. And so just to not
just to be grateful for each day and to use it really to figure out how you can glorify the King, because we have no idea how many days we have left. We're never guaranteed a tomorrow. And so all of those things, plus even to your friends, your family, anybody that doesn't believe what you believe, that love should be consistent. And I just encourage people to love well, because that's truly the example of Christ that they need to see.
Didn't we just talk about that like 2 seconds ago?
So my life had been pretty easy and pretty perfect, I would say, up until I was about 16. And I grew up in a Christian home, and like I said, everything was always really easy. And when I was 16, my parents got a divorce, and I moved to LA, and it seemed like every aspect of my life, it just like hit me at once, where everything was just failing. And I experienced a ton of rejection for the first time in my life, from my career, different relationships, friends, and even some of my family, like the people that I love the most. That really made me grow closer a lot to God, because during those times it was like Jesus was really all I had, and my guitar. So I just like poured into that and getting to know him more, and poured into my music. And I think just seeing the redemption in all of that, and realizing that my worth is found in Jesus and not the world, and whatever that means to you, has really made me who I am today. And then also just being in LA and like thrown into the real world at such a young age really made me grow up fast. And I was put in a lot of different situations where, you know, like I was tested, my faith was tested, and I had to make wise decisions. And yeah, it was a very hard and difficult time in my life, but I'm super thankful for all of it. And at the end of the day, Jesus is what it all comes back to, and like I wouldn't be here without Jesus. I think I would tell my 10-year-old self the importance of investing in relationships. The impact that solid people and good friends have had on my life has been completely life-changing for me, and so I think to be that person for other people is a really cool thing. I would tell the world, you're worth it. You were intentionally designed and created with a purpose, and you're here for a reason. So don't forget that, even on the hard days.
The series of circumstances that I experienced, having them be so intense to the point where I've had to learn how to let things go, especially things that don't matter. And in life, I was bullied early on, and I've never fit in. I was made fun of my gap, to a stutter, to the way I sounded when I spoke. Just letting it all go and not caring about what people think about me, that I am who I am, because God made me this way. Growing to learn how to be proud of that and be confident in that, knowing that I am different and unique. And, you know, since then, learning this confidence, you know, confidence attracts, and, you know, keeping society out of it, but uniqueness is so powerful, and it's what's needed because so many people feel alone. So don't let your fears be the reason why you're jealous of someone else's success later. And that has been something that has been swimming in my mind for the past couple of weeks, because I know me, and I know the fears that I've accepted and and that I've hung on to for so many years, that I look at my life today and I know that a lot of things that I don't like could have been way different in my life. There's some things that I know that I wouldn't have to have gone through if I just stopped giving into my fears, into the thoughts of me not being good enough. And I see success of people who are my age or a little bit younger than I am, and seeing some of their fears and how they jumped through the hurdles and, made no excuses. And I sat there, I'm not gonna lie, I sat there and I was like, how did they get so successful so quick? Why are they not in a 9-to-5 job? Why am I having to be where I am today? And I had such a hard revelation, especially lately, that I am where I am because of my choices of giving into my fears and giving into my excuses. And it hurts, but if I could tell the world something, stop giving into your fear. It's not going to serve you. It's not serving you at all. It will never serve you. If anything, you'll look back at your life and you'll be like, darn, like, I could have been way more successful, way less stressed, way less sick. However, you might want to put it in your box, but fear is also not of God, it's of the enemy. And whatever you're the most afraid of, it's most likely something that you are most likely supposed to bring to the world or bring awareness to. So
what's maybe the person I am today is really my parents letting me be who I wanted to be. Growing up, I never really transformed into the people that I was around. I always kind of did my own thing and people would come along for it. I was such a tomboy. I'd go play in the creek and catch a frog and have it as a pet for a little while. And my parents would make me let it go so it didn't die. So just weird stuff like that, like bikes. I loved bikes and hanging out with my friends and riding bikes all day. And I never broke a bone, which is insane, but I was just wild. I just had so much fun. I really think that has helped me just truly be who I am. And that sounds so kind of cliche, but for me, growing up, my parents just believed in me, pretty much whatever I wanted to do, whether it was playing the drums, them buying me a drum set when I was 11. I still love playing the drums. And that has kind of been the consistent thing in my life, is just my parents just believing in me. And I think that has kind of poured out into creative things. If they would have put me in this little box of who they wanted me to be, I think we're all capable of doing those things. But I also know that we're not all called to do those things. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And that kind of stuck with me. Just keep being you. Because there's literally nobody else like you in the world. And if you keep comparing yourself to people that you define as successful, you'll never think of yourself as successful. I think it's really important to be encouraged and motivated by people that are successful, but your gift is different than theirs. People either like you as you are or they don't, and that's okay. It's okay if people don't like you. Right now, what I would tell the world after this project is there's hope. And Angie and I talked about this a few nights ago of whoa, after 50, I don't even know what number we're on right now, but 50 something, literally, if you believe in Jesus or if you don't, literally the bottom line is hope. There's not just hope in your future, but there's hope in today. And I think that's really important. It's if you can get up and you can find a little bit of joy in each day, you win. Fear doesn't win. Abuse doesn't win. Addictions don't win. In the end, you're stronger than all of those things. And personally, I've never experienced a lot of what we've heard in all of these stories. As elementary school as it sounds, don't judge a book by its cover. Because you can see these people on TV or on a magazine cover or your doctor or somebody that has $1 million. And they have a story that you'll never really know unless you ask them. And I think it's really important for the world to know that there's more to a human being than literally like what you see on the outside. Be vulnerable. I'm not good at that. I'm good at telling people how I feel when it's something I'm passionate about and people that I love. But there's something really powerful in truth and vulnerability. When you leave a conversation and you tell somebody the truth and you be vulnerable with somebody, that gives somebody some more life. This is gonna be so cool. Yes, and I paused the music for Angie. We were watching this commercial, and it was one of those videos that I think touched everybody in the room because it was so real. So many things that we're all very similar with. They were like, does anybody have anything else they want to share? And I was like, yep. I raised my hand and I said, here's the deal. And I was just talking about how beautiful it is for all of us to be so different. And like a few minutes in, I just start crying.
That's a big deal.
And I just started tearing up, and like, it was so cool because the people that were in the room with me were from different everything. You know, you list off what makes people who they are. I just started sharing. I was like, you don't know where people come from unless you ask. You don't know people's story unless you ask, because most of the time people aren't just going to go blast it on social media. There's more to people showing up to work. There's more to people like going to a party. There's more to people than like what you've known of them and why they react the way they do. It was just really like empowering because I'm like, whoa, this is what I've been seeing for the last month and a half, 2 months, almost 2 months. Yeah. Like even this morning, just to encourage people that I work with, like, these are human beings that you get to work with every day, you know? Mm-hmm. And their life actually matters. Whether or not you agree with what they have to say, like, they're more than like their opinion. They're more than just the human being that you see that shows up to work or to your party or to your server. To me, I look at it as like, if I can love people like Jesus actually would have loved people on this earth today, like, that's what gets me, is like, that's just so beautiful. Because it's like, there's no facade. Unconditional love, even if you don't know Jesus or feel like you don't have any religious bone in your body or in your heart, like, I think it's part of humanity. Is like, people want to love people really well, but most of the time they're terrified to because they've been hurt so bad. I feel like a lot of people's stories are from other people not loving them well. I think the root of it is love, you know? Like, hurt is like, okay, somebody's gonna come in and they're gonna love, you know? And that's gonna help heal that. Like, if you can love people without a condition, without wanting something in return, that's when you love well, you know?